Whether you're stuck for dinner and don't have anything to make, coming home late from a night out on the town, or maybe you just want a midnight snack, there's nothing greater than having a freezer full of chicken fingers inside of Snack City. Here's how I make mine. The first thing you need to do is cut your chicken breasts into finger shapes. Usually when I make these, I do anywhere between 5 to 10 pounds. I'll normally go to Costco, buy the large pack of chicken they sell, and whatever is in it, I make into chicken fingers. To make my cuts, I lay the chicken breast down flat on the cutting board. Starting at the thin end, I angle my knife in a direction that will make long pieces of chicken. Once you get down towards the fatter end, you're running out of space to make those long slices. You're gonna have fatter pieces, that's fine, just make it work. 1 inch to 1.5 inches in thickness is what I shoot for when I'm cutting. I find that if you cut them too thin, when they are reheated the second time coming out of the freezer, they are more likely to dry out. We don't want that. Just keep your cuts a little on the thicker side and you won't have to worry about this. Once everything's been cut, spread out all that chicken and lightly season both sides with salt and pepper. If you wanted to add any other seasonings, I would do it at this step. Maybe you add garlic powder or onion powder, whatever floats your boat. Salt and pepper is fine for me. Next, you need to prepare your breading station. For my breading, I use ground corn chex. I just use corn chex cereal that I put in the blender and pulverize it until it has formed a flour. You can use virtually whatever you want to bread these. As long as they're in the breading family, it's gonna work. I use ground corn chex because they're gluten-free and I like the flavor it gives. If you wanted to use corn flakes or a different kind of cereal, you wouldn't have any issue. If you just want to use regular breadcrumbs, be my guest. For the egg wash, I crack 2 eggs into a bowl, I dilute it with a bit of water just to thin it out, and I whisk that together until they are combined. We got a lot of chicken to coat, and the extra water does help provide more volume. You could just add more eggs, but the water is calorie-free and you can't really tell a difference in the end product, so that's why I use water. Into a large bowl, add 250 grams of that ground corn chex you just made. Season it lightly with salt and pepper. Don't have to go crazy here, remember we already salted the chicken. Because I use seasoned ground corn chex to bread just about everything I make, one thing that I like to do is buy a bunch of boxes of the corn chex cereal at once, blend them all together, and then store it inside of a Ziploc bag that I put in my pantry. That way I don't have to use the blender every time I want to make something like these chicken fingers or popcorn chicken. I can just pull out the bag, measure out how much I need, and I'm ready to go. The first step of your breading process is to coat your chicken in some kind of starch. You can use either cornstarch or tapioca flour. I'm using a large bowl. You can also use a Ziploc bag, throw it all in there, shake it up together, and it is ready to go into your egg wash. Once you introduce the egg wash into the breading process, it is important that you keep one of your hands to be designated as your wet hand and the other hand to be designated as your dry hand. Otherwise, you end up with gunky fingers and it just makes things more difficult to handle. Take some of those starch-coated chicken fingers and dunk them into the egg wash. Once they are completely coated, you can move them over into your breading bowl. The best way to do the breading is to have some kind of large, shallow dish that has lots of surface area so that you can fit as many in there as possible without having them to overlap on each other and cause any kind of stickage. I have to use this bowl because I don't have that, but if you had some kind of large roasting pan or a sheet pan with high sides, I recommend using that. Bread all of your chicken and then store it on a sheet pan. Once everything's done, we can begin the cooking process. We're going to use our air fryer. If you don't have an air fryer, you can use a convection oven. It's the same thing. If you don't have a convection oven, you're kind of shit out of luck. You can get by with using a conduction oven, but it's just not going to be the same. The air fryer I use is the Instant Vortex 6-quart. I will include a link to it in the description below. I'm often asked by people what air fryer they should get, and I've only used this one. It's the only one I've ever tried, so I can't compare it to anything else. Maybe it's shitty, who am I to say? But it gets the job done. So add the chicken strips to your air fryer. We're going to air fry them at 400 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes, flipping them halfway. You'll need to cook them in batches. You obviously can't fit 5 pounds of chicken fingers into one 6-quart air fryer basket at once. It's also not recommended to overcrowd the basket like I'm doing here. If you want good browning and proper cooking, don't put this many in. 15 to 20% less chicken in this basket would have been ideal, but I'm a rascal and I like to break rules, so I put way too much in. After about 5 to 6 minutes, you can pull it out of the air fryer, flip all those pieces over, and spray the top with more oil. Return it back to the air fryer and finish cooking for another 4 to 5 minutes. Once they're done, you can pull them out, transfer it over to a wire rack to cool, and then continue cooking your later batches. If you made a lot of chicken fingers, say 10 pounds or so, it's probably going to take you around an hour to go through all of the rounds in the air fryer. So once they come out and you're cooling them on the wire rack, when they get close to room temperature, I would move them into the refrigerator so they're not sitting at room temperature for too long. You don't want the chicken to go straight from the air fryer to the fridge though, that would create moisture. So it would be nice if you had 2 wire racks, one that is for the cool chicken pieces and one that's for the hot chicken pieces. Once the hot ones have cooled down to room temperature, you can move them over to the cool rack that is in the fridge. As I mentioned earlier, these chicken fingers work great as a snack or as a quick meal when you don't have anything prepped and you need something fast. Storage on these bad boys is easy. Just wait for them to cool to room temperature, transfer them over to a Ziploc bag, remove as much air as possible, and you can keep them in your freezer. For reheating, just go straight from the freezer to the air fryer at 400 degrees for about 5 to 7 minutes and they will be ready to eat. Estimating nutritional values for things like this isn't always the easiest because some pieces are bigger than others, but for roughly 3 to 4 pieces, we're looking at 195 calories and 23 grams of protein. I will include the full written recipe for these chicken fingers in the description below, but if you're looking for more recipes like this, head on over to my website, mealprepmanual.com. I've got hundreds of recipes specifically designed for meal prep and for freezer-friendly snacks. Go check it out.